Hey folks, thanks for checking into the Neutral Zone Hotel. We are an unapologetically left-leaning podcast that explores hockey at its best and worst. I'm Benjamin, my pronouns are he, him. I'm a Montreal Canadiens and Ottawa Charge fan out of Ottawa, Ontario, although currently I'm in Nova Scotia, and I am thrilled to welcome you to the Neutral Zone Hotel. Here to ensure that your stay with us is memorable and wonderful are two of my colleagues, starting with SJ.
Hello, my name is SJ. My pronouns are they, them, and I am a Seattle Kraken and Everett Silvertips fan, and I apologize because I'm very sick right now.
The S in SJ is for sick. And Trevor.
Stole my joke. Hi, everybody. Trevor here. Pronouns are he, him. The hometown Vancouver Canucks fan, although I will be sending out applications for which playoff team to bandwagon on their way to the Cup. So if you would like me to hop on your fandom, go right ahead. You can campaign for Montreal all you want. I'm listening to offers.
They took the Caps to overtime. It took Alexander Ovechkin getting his first ever overtime goal, which there's a wild stat.
All right.
To stop them. It was the beautiful goals boy and the captain making it happen. So,
I would have been all in on Ottawa right now, but that's not looking good right now.
They're fine. Actually, I don't even know what the score is right now. I should look before I say that.
It's not fine.
Oh, it's not fine.
It's true. Yeah.
We got a packed show for you today. Usually I open up with a joke. I guess the S in SJ is sick counts for one because John's going to cut out SJ just coughing this entire time Trevor and I have been talking, but let me tell you, it's been happening. But I do want to point out that one thing that is very funny is all of us are gainfully employed, unlike certain general managers of the New York Islanders. But we'll get to that in a few moments. First, though, we want to take it serious. So we want to talk about Artemi Panarin. So Katie Strang on April 17th broke the news that New York Rangers forward Artemi Panarin and his bosses at Madison Square Garden have paid financial settlements to a Rangers employee after allegations that Panarin sexually assaulted that person. We're going to go into a couple details over this in the next thing, so feel free to skip ahead if you need to, folks. The Strang article is pretty unlike the usual Strang article. I think it's a little lax on details. This seems to be because Strang was looped in not by the actual complainant, which has been the case in several previous Strang exposés. But in this case, they found out about it because an employee who had been in trouble with the team for passing out prescription drugs to a player on a flight looped in multiple people. So I think it's very interesting that this dropped. I think the timing is not uncoincidental that it dropped at the end of the season. And the fact that the team and the original complainant, when contacted, used the exact same verbiage to say there was no comment, I also thought was very, very telling. So I'm wondering,
there was an NDA.
I mean, yeah, and clearly one that's worthwhile. We've seen a few NDAs being skipped in recent years, but this one they seem to be so far holding the fort down. What do you think, SJ?
I think it's really disappointing. It's like, Panarin's a player I kind of liked. Obviously did a bad thing, and that doesn't seem to be in dispute. So yeah, it just kind of makes me sad. I don't know what to think about it after that.
Trevor?
Yeah, it almost seemed deeply ironic considering Panarin had been named like the media's nice guy of the year. So to have that drop soon afterwards. But when it comes to hockey articles, if you see one from either Rick Westhead or Katie Strang, you know there's gonna be some stuff going down for it. And usually in a way that's gonna be like obviously bad for players, but good for everyone else because it's just a stark reminder that sometimes our heroes aren't as great as we build them up to be. And it's just another bleak reminder of just, how far we still need to come when it comes to hockey players and hockey in general.
I don't think that very much, if anything, will come of this. I don't think there will be any real consequences aside from the idea that New York might look to avoid any appearance of scandal or impropriety. And basically that might mean they don't hire Joel Quenneville this summer as their new coach. But I really think that is it, that this is going to go to kind of disappear into the woodwork.
There are two things that I think are really telling, and you just hit the head on the first one. They probably don't want Quenneville showing up and ruining or adding to this sort of negative publicity. But the other thing was something that was said in the article. I was scrolling through because I want to find it. One person who worked for the Rangers at the time the woman was placed on leave said the suddenness of the woman's exit made it a topic of conversation within the organization. It's not a secret at all anytime someone vanishes. Now, there's a lot of ways to read that, but the way I read that is when somebody is no longer around the team, we have a pretty good idea why. So I wonder if we're going to hear eventually about more settlements. It might not be just Panarin, but it is worth noting that in 2021, Panarin took a leave of absence from the team because he had been accused in Russia of assaulting an 18-year-old and that he bribed the police to get out of it.
Now, at the time, all about that.
At the time, it was assumed that this was a hit piece by the Russian media because of Panarin's support for Putin opponent Alexei Navalny. I think that's the right name. Just double checking. Yeah, Alexei Navalny, who has since died in prison. Definitely, absolutely not something Putin made sure happened. Alexei Navalny. However, it is possible that Panarin did a bad thing, and that Putin's people found out and then amplified it as a way of attacking a supporter, a high-profile supporter of a anti-Putin person. So I think there is value there in looking at that and saying there's the possibility that we now have multiple instances for Panarin specifically, and there could very well be more. So
I don't know that you can assume any of that. It feels weird. It makes me uncomfortable just to speculate about it.
I don't want to speculate about it, but like the one thing that I would say based on the comments, I would not be surprised if we hear more coming out from the Rangers organization. Just too slick.
Well, it didn't sound to me like this actually came from the Rangers. It sounded like Katie Strang had a source at the league level, and that's where she got it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it could be that there is more out there based on the conversations that she had with people around the Rangers following beginning the conversation.
I'd almost be surprised if there isn't more, because there's always more. There's always more of this stuff,
But I agree with you. If the number one thing that occurs out of this is that Joel Quenneville stays out of a league job for another year, that is, I don't want to call it a victory, but it's something, right? Like Quenneville has not shown.
It's a lower case. It's a lower case.
Quenneville has not shown in any way that he deserves another head coaching job in the NHL. And any cover that was created by the Oilers hiring Stan Bowman has certainly been eaten up by Panarin being found out as part of this settlement.
Mm-hmm.
All right. With that in mind, let's cover the other serious topics. So today, which is the 22nd of April, the trial for 5 former Team Canada players has kicked off in London, Ontario. As a reminder, the players are Alex Formenton, formerly of the Senators, Carter Hart of the Flyers, formerly the Flyers, Michael McLeod, who was Devils, Cal Foote, also Devils, and Dylan Dubé, who was Flames. So, not that it matters what team they played for, but these were mostly NHL players, with the exception of Formenton, who had gone to the KHL after the Sens refused to renew his contract, which we have speculated but cannot prove, is because they were aware he was one of the 5 people named in the complaint. And chose not to further associate themselves with him, which I guess we would call a rare Pierre Dorian win. So the jury selection was today. All 5 players pled non-guilty to the charges against them of sexual assault, and in Michael McLeod's case, an additional charge of being party to the offense. The trial is expected to take 8 weeks, and there is a serious publication ban in place. It is unlikely we will hear many specific details. However, one detail we have heard is that players who were part of the team may be called on to testify during the playoffs. So, as a reminder, there are multiple players from that team who are currently in the playoffs. Just pulling up the list now. So the roster includes current players along the lines of Drake Batherson, Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas, Cale Makar, Dante Fabro. So there are quite a few players who are actively in the playoffs right now who may be called upon, as well as players who are in the NHL but are going to be made available during this process. So the reporting that I've seen suggests that players are interested or able to participate and intend to. They are not necessarily expected to appear in person. Some may appear by video for the court. The 8 weeks time frame means that roughly around the time the Stanley Cup is going to be hoisted, we're going to see the proceedings go towards a verdict. Whether or not we'll get the verdict in time, of course, juries take their time. So, why don't we get some thoughts?
I'm glad that we're finally getting this to a head, because this story first came out, what was it, like a year and a half, 2 years ago?
Buddy, more than that.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a long time coming, and I know that's part of just the court system, but no. Obviously, just hope for justice for the victim, and that no matter what the sentence is, if it turns out they are guilty, just forgetting their positions, just don't hold back for the punishment. Just make sure it fits, because it's not something to be joked about. It's not something, again, that hockey players should be above, nor should they feel above it.
SJ, what do you think?
I'm hopeful that there will be a cultural impact in a positive direction as a result of this going to trial, and that we can kind of move forward from it as a better society, and that hockey culture will start to take especially junior hockey culture will start to take sexual assault much more seriously. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I am always worried about these individual things, because we don't know what the evidence is. We don't know what the verdict is. I can't say if they're guilty or not. I don't know. And I hope that good things come out of this.
I would say a couple things. So the first is the woman at the center of all this is an extremely brave person.
Mm-hmm.
And
she's fought long and hard to get to this point.
And she has to go up there and sit on the stand and be cross-examined by 5 different legal teams. That bravery is incredible. And I wish her the best of luck in getting through it, regardless of the outcome of the trial.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a prison abolitionist. So we are a left-leaning podcast. I'm not a prison abolitionist. I know some people who are. But I am a prison reductionist. I think that we should avoid sending people to prison when possible. When we do send people to prison, it should be for the purpose of rehabilitation rather than discipline, with the exception of cases where the person is simply not safe to be allowed out, you know? I don't think Paul Bernardo should be back on the streets, let's put it that way. And I don't know for these 5 guys, you know, and if it wasn't such a profile thing, I would say put them in prison so they can get the help they need so that they never do anything like this again. But unfortunately, it's beyond that. This is not just about the 5 players, and it's not about the one victim. It's about all the victims out there who could be, if these young men who are taught they are gods by Canada's hockey culture do not have something to puncture that false reality. So, I hate saying it, but honestly, if they are found guilty, I hope the judge throws the book at them.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people, the young men in junior hockey, and there's been so many allegations, so many accusations, they need to be shown there are consequences for these actions.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean I hope that, again, if these 5 guys are found guilty, I think they should get the rehabilitation therapy they need because they did something horrible. And they need to understand that, and they need to understand why they can never do anything like it again. But by God, there's a 12-year-old out there who needs to understand treating people the way that these people allegedly treated that woman is both morally wrong and it is illegal.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
I think that's very well said, and thank you for saying it. I feel like, well, one quickly more too, like we're obviously going to discuss it more as more stuff occasionally might come out here and there. It's just, you know, this is all we've got so far, but we felt it was necessary to bring up and cover.
I mean, so I guess I'll just spitball here. We may ask some people to join us to talk about what a Canadian trial looks like. But I don't think we're going to get too much in the way of specifics from the trial itself. So I'm not anticipating doing regular weekly updates during the playoffs, but we will talk about any sort of stories that come out of this. And once we have a verdict, we'll certainly talk about that. So, yeah, 8 weeks. It's a long trial. Like in Canadian jurisprudence, that is a long-ass trial. So let's not talk about this stuff anymore, but first, let's take a quick break, give everyone a chance to refresh. So, folks, just so you know, please give us a follow on Instagram or Blue Sky at Neutral Zone Hotel. If you like what you're hearing and you want to hang out with us, join us at neutralzonehotel.com/Discord. We'd love to hang out with you and chat with you. We are very personable. Everyone except for me, I'm an old miser. If you're listening to this on YouTube at Neutral Zone Hotel, smash the like button, subscribe, leave some comments. SJ reads them, I'm told. And feedback at neutralzonehotel.com if you want to send us an email. We'll be right back, folks. Hey, folks, we're back. Hey, during the break, Alex joined us. Alex, say hi.
Hello. I'm back.
All right. That's all you're getting, folks. We're going to talk about the firings in the NHL. So it was a week of firings, and I'm just going to go through them, and we're going to take one of those and spin them off into a slightly deeper segment. Greg Cronin, coach of the Anaheim Ducks, has been fired after 2 years. Thoughts?
Good riddance.
Simple and short.
Not much else that needs to be said. Like, with him, that roster was underperforming, and that's a good young roster that should be performing a lot better than it was.
Yep, they weren't.
Any other thoughts?
Yep, they weren't taking the steps forward that they would have needed to.
What do you think, SJ?
It's funny how much he managed to improve the team between last year and this year, and at least their win percentage, and they were still terrible, and everybody hated him.
Yeah, that's very true.
He gave himself a real short leash coming into this year with the way that the team thought about him.
Yeah.
21-point improvement year over year. That's not nothing.
That's like actually pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, there was so much noise coming out of Anaheim about how hated he was. And then there were like the really funny stories about how like he would just waste people's times in meetings and like tell stories and stuff. And then he was also like a total hard ass at the same time. Like, there was one player who just like retired in the middle of the season, if I recall. Like, people just hated him. Yeah, I'm surprised that he made it to the end of the season, to be honest.
Yeah. He seems like a coach that is a one and done. He's not going to get another opportunity, I don't think.
I think he'll go back to the AHL.
This is interesting to me because it's Pat Verbeek's first coaching hire. He's going to get a second one. GMs generally don't get more than 2. So he's got to get this right. And if we don't see significant advancement from that sort of mid-20s group that's on the Ducks, we could see players start to move. So like Zegras and kind of that sort of group of players, there's no point in keeping them if they're not going to make the strides. And they could be available at bargain basement prices next year. I'm really curious to see who they bring in.
I would like to pick up Olin Zellweger at a bargain basement price.
Trevor Zegras for the Montreal Canadiens, please and thank you.
Yeah, I kind of think Zegras is going to be going elsewhere no matter what.
Yeah,
just because I think he's a player that's kind of run his course in Anaheim. And what he's going to like be able to demand from them is not something that he's going to be worth to them. But
we're now several years, I think 6 years into Trevor Zegras' career, and the most notable thing he's done has been the cover athlete with Sarah Nurse of NHL hockey.
That was a cool goal, though.
Yeah.
Look, man, it's better than I've ever done in the NHL, so I got to give it to him.
I mean, yeah, there was that, and the time he scored a second Michigan because the the Ducks intermission reporter asked him, it's like, hey, can you score me a Michigan goal for Christmas? And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll try. And did. Other than that,
I feel like that is the exact type of player that Greg Cronin would just hate.
Oh, yeah. He tried turning Zegras into a two-way player, and Zegras is definitely not that.
Who do we think is the best coach that's available for this team?
Somebody whose name I don't know.
Very good, Alex. Thank you for that.
Like, who's basically like a good young coach or young player whisperer? Exactly.
Buddy, I think everyone's going to be bidding on David Carl this offseason.
Oh,
and I think Chicago's going to win.
It's going to take a Godfather offer to get David Carl out of Denver.
I think it's like $7 or $8 million a year,
and it's going to be
5 years.
He's going to demand real security. He's got little kids. Like, he's comfortable. He's used to the college season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is absolutely correct. I think Anaheim should try for David Carl, but I don't think they'll get him.
Yeah. I've heard that Chicago's going to make a big pitch. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? I would not be surprised at all if he's like, no, thank you.
I will say that I don't know how it would be for college hockey, but for example, college football, it's a big quality of life increase going into the NHL, going to that higher level, because suddenly you're responsible for a whole lot less. Um,
Mm.
and like college hockey is obviously not as big, the money's not as big, the attention isn't as all consuming, but the like the amount of stuff that the head coach is personally responsible for is pretty similar. So there's definitely a world where there's actually a quality of life increase going to the pro level.
The big thing about Carl is that he has that kind of um, guarantee that only longtime college hockey or college coaches get. They will never fire him unless he is caught doing something horrendous. He's paid a very good, if not NHL level salary, and he gets an all expenses paid trip to wherever the World Juniors are every year at the behest of USA Hockey. So he's got a pretty good gig, and he may not want to give it up to be the next. Well, who was that guy who coached in San Jose before he got fired?
David Quinn.
Yeah, he might not want to give it up to be the next David Quinn, who puts in a couple years to the NHL, and then, after one or two kicks in the can, everyone goes, "Oh, this guy actually wasn't that good," and ends up kind of trying to find a new college hockey job.
Yeah, how much?
Yep.
What's the overall success rate of NCAA coaches in the NHL?
I honestly do not know the answer to that. I would have to do some digging.
I feel like most of the NHL coaches seem to come up through the pros, the minors, rather than the NCAA.
It's definitely an off-season project, but I was definitely thinking of looking and doing a kind of a tracking of where NHL coaches and NHL GMs actually come up from, just because the concept of 200 hockey men and the same 35 names being brought up for every job is I think bears a closer look. It's definitely a real thing, but for coaching at least, I don't think it's as stark as it might seem, just because NHL teams rotate through coaches so much relative to other sports.
I think there is something to that, Alex, and I think we would find there are simply not that many NCAA coaches who become long-term successes without an interim stop.
Yeah.
So that could be in the AHL or it could be as an assistant at the NHL level. But this is kind of something I've said for a long time, which is that I don't think that college hockey is as directly transferable to the NHL as defenders of college hockey might want it to be. I think it's a very good place for people of a certain age group to develop. If you're in the United States, if you're that 19 to 20-year-old. But after that, I don't think it's particularly useful to a career. We simply don't see that many people coming in out of the NCAA unless they were top-level prospects going into it.
Yeah.
And I think that's true of coaches. But that being said, David Carl has done an excellent job in Denver, and he's done an excellent job with a bevy of future NHL stars at the United States World Junior program. If there is someone who's an exception to that, it would be him. He's young. He is somebody that if he is truly a great coach in the making, if you can lock him in for a long time, you could have someone who becomes face of your franchise as a coach, similar to a John Cooper or a Bednar. And that's something that I think is probably worth gambling on if you are a big money team like the Chicago Blackhawks. But I can't see the Ducks offering him the financial stability that he would be looking for. Because let's be frank, what's his goal if he's going to go? He wants to stay. If he can't stay, he wants to get paid a bunch of money to go back to his old job in Denver.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? then we'll talk about the next firing.
Speaking
Peter
of guy,
Laviolette. Sorry, go ahead.
no, you weren't going the direction I thought.
Oh, I was going to go. We're starting with Laviolette next. We touched
Yep.
on this a little bit. We don't think it's going to be Quenneville. But thoughts on Laviolette getting fired?
What a
The
roller
Rangers
coaster.
are such a mess. Like,
Yeah.
this season, the Rangers probably had the lowest season relative to what their expectations reasonably were coming into it. And they're not exiting the season with a plan that makes you think that they're going to be better in the future. And I don't think a coaching candidate, whoever it is going to change it. But it does kind of cement Laviolette's reputation as a guy who you're going to get one season out of, and that's going to be pretty much it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you summed it up perfectly. The Rangers got the speedrun version of the Laviolette experience, where your first year is going to be incredible, and then after that, you're going to get middling to bad results. It's just very funny that they did it within 2 years, where his first year they do President's Trophy, and then next year collapse, miss the playoffs, and basically become one of the top 3 travesties of the league.
I think that's actually very unfair to Peter Laviolette, who was able to have very good seasons in Carolina. He never had a bad season in Carolina, except for the season he got fired in, and even that was still a winning season. He never had a bad season in Nashville. Again, he had a couple where he was fourth in the Central, but those rosters were pretty flawed. But then he had a 117-point season in his fourth season. Certainly that was the experience in Washington and again in New York. But I can't point fingers at him for what happened in New York this year. Chris Drury tore that roster apart. He made it clear that they were all just names on a page who could be wheeled and dealed as he saw fit. And unsurprisingly, the players chose not to compete. It's the only way I can put it. The players chose not to compete.
Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, I think Laviolette, between that, everyone listed, is probably the least deserving. Drury should be the one to go. But at the same time, if this means that the Rangers continue to be a tire fire that I can laugh at, by all means, let it happen.
Oh, yeah, to hell with the Rangers, right?
Amen.
Any other thoughts on Peter Laviolette?
No, not on Laviolette. I will share something that I saw today that was extremely funny, which is what name. Trevor, what's the name? I'm asking you for a reason.
Talk it.
No. Player.
JT Miller?
Yes.
Oh, JT Miller.
What JT Miller is doing right now? He is attempting to qualify for the U.S. Open.
What, really?
Yes.
In golf or tennis?
Golf.
In golf.
In golf.
Amazing.
Who does he think
Amazing.
he is? Joe Pavelski?
What do you think this is, Alex? A Chris Johnson athletic article? Come on, we don't talk about golf here.
No, that's incredible.
I wish JT Miller the best of luck on the golf course. Just as I do wish the Rangers as a group every year. Incredible.
I'm dying over here.
I was thinking that Chris Drury should try to hire Jay Woodcroft.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think his deal with the Oilers is now up or will be up on July 1st. And I think that he has a penchant for motivating players who are established stars. So I think he should be the number one target for them. But yeah, if not Woodcroft, I have no idea. And they're not going to, as we discussed, hopefully they're not going to hire Quenneville, who from a skills perspective is probably the ideal fit. But absolutely do not fucking hire him. I also saw a rumor today that they might bring back Tortorella, which, again, I think would be just an insane decision.
I hear Greg Cronin's looking for a job.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, I definitely think they'll go for an experienced coach.
I hear Greg Cronin's got experience. Yeah.
Maybe they go after Tocchet.
That would be interesting considering, what Miller left behind in Vancouver and Tocchet having to be front and center with it.
I mean, it sounds to me like Tocchet loved Miller.
Yeah, he does seem to be his kind of grit and sandpaper type of guy.
Based on what I heard coming out of exit interviews, it seemed like Tocchet loved Miller.
If Tocchet chooses not to sign with Vancouver, which seems likely, it would behoove him, if there's interest in New York, to play New York and the Flyers against each other to get the best possible deal.
It would.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We just talked about the Rick Tocchet situation, so that was the next on my list. Who knows where he ends up? I think New York or Philly. Probably Philly, but who knows?
Yeah.
That brings us to the news that broke today, which is that Lou Lamoriello has had his contract not renewed by the New York Islanders, a.k.a. Great Granddaddy Lou has been fired. You can grow a beard on the New York Islanders again.
Benjamin, you and I can play for the Islanders.
Let the beards rejoice.
Yeah, Benjamin and I can finally play for the Islanders. Maybe the beard not as much, but you got the long hair too, right? You would never be able to have that glorious mane while playing for a Lou's team.
Yeah,
true.
Kind of
feel,
shitty too.
You know what I feel great for? I feel great for Anthony Duclair today.
I was just gonna say
now
he got
they just
shafted
need to fire
real hard
Waugh for him.
Yeah, that's true.
My theory is that Patrick Waugh will be nicer to Pierre Engvall when he has a beard.
I mean, I think growing his beard back would fix a lot of problems with Patrick Waugh, but I don't know that it's going to repair the fact that he seems like he was a total dick to all of the players this year. And they all hated him.
Sounds familiar.
We will see what the new one brings in, but my true hope, is that they do not promote their general manager of the Bridgeport Islanders.
On the contrary, my true hope is that they do.
Wow. And why is that, Alex?
Because I do not want the Islanders to see success as a team. And promoting Lou's son would not bring them success based off of everything he's done in his career as a hockey executive.
Yeah, to be clear, folks, the Bridgeport Islander this year went 15-50-4-3. The 4 being OTL and the 3 being shootout losses. So that is a 37-point season.
Only 4 of those wins at home, too, no less. Like, abysmal.
That's how you know you really hate your fans.
Yep. And with that also said quickly, Alex, I appreciate you sipping that Islander flavored haterade. We love to see it.
Also, he did not do a good job of managing the Devils, AHL and lower teams when when Lou was there.
There are a lot of fail sons in this league. I'm just going to go
NHL
out
tradition,
and say it.
the fail son.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a comment about the Campbell family in here, but I'm not going to make it. Do you think Lou Lamoriello gets another job in the NHL?
I
think there's someone stupid enough to hire him. I just don't know if he's willing to go for another at this point.
I think he either gets an advisory role for a team that's basically a can I call you sometime role for money, or he gets something at like NHL head office that's basically a non-role. I don't think that he gets a role of any real power or responsibility again and it's largely because he's so dang old.
Yeah.
To be clear, Lou Lamoriello is 82 years old. And what that means is that his formative memories are of VE Day.
If like the Edmonton Oilers announce tomorrow that they've hired Lou Lamoriello as a senior advisor, nobody's going to be shocked.
I think he needs a job, or else he'll just die.
Some people they need something to do every day.
The spike keeps his heart going.
I think that he should take an advisory role with the Rangers and just collect all the NYC area teams.
Yeah, maybe they're like hockey cards to him.
God knows they have the money.
Yeah, they can just throw money around. Although I heard that the Rangers actually have an unusually small front office for an NHL team.
They really do. Yeah.
It is very curious.
I kind of want Lou to take up a job as like president of hockey ops somewhere like Utah, and then just have him call the general manager every day to be like, "You got too many beards on your team. What are you doing with all them beards? How are you going to win a Stanley Cup if your guy's got a beard?" I just think it would be very funny. They're like, "Thanks, Lou."
It's just, he wouldn't put it like that. He'd be like, look, if you want to instill a winning culture, one of professionalism and, dedication, the beard's gotta go. You can't just have long hair.
No winner in the United States has ever had a beard. Can you name any presidents with a beard? No, of course not.
Okay.
Did a man with a beard win the Civil War? No.
Good enough.
Couldn't have. I hope that Lou. Best of luck to Lou Lamoriello. Getting another job. Best of luck to Chris Lamoriello getting another job without his daddy hiring him. Let's put it that way.
I'm actually quite pleased because this means that I can hope for better things for the New York Islanders without hoping for someone's death.
Well,
Jesus Christ, this shit.
you saw who? Did you guys see who Darren Dreger whose name Darren Dreger floated for the newly opened job?
Oh, please tell me.
Holland.
Peter Holland?
Ken Holland.
Or Ken
From
Holland.
one senior citizen to another.
Yep.
Oh, I went with Peter. Because the hockey player Peter Holland, but I mixed Peter Chiarelli and Ken Holland in my head.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure Peter Chiarelli is busy giving press hits to people who are writing about the new Canadian Prime Minister.
That's all he does all day.
Oh man,
him and
Carney.
Carney
yeah, they were roommates.
College roommates.
Oh, right.
I
was going to say, because he works for the Blues now. He's in their POHO department. He's the vice president of their POHO ops.
Oh, is he?
Going to maybe who
It's nice that we have so many vestigial roles in all of these organizations for these.
Yeah,
sometimes you just have to hire the guy who traded Taylor Hall for Adam Larson, SJ. It's just a thing you have to do.
I stand by the fact that Adam Larson is a very good player.
But the one thing I'll say is that the Islanders, I have no idea what they're going to do in terms of GM hiring because they have been the wildest team in their recent history of hiring the GM. Like, sure, you hire Lou Lamoriello, the already ancient executive who has championship experience, a long time going.
One might call him cadaver-like.
Yes. But that was the normalist hire of the past, 2 decades for your hockey franchise's GM.
Remember, they hired their backup goalie to be GM.
Hey, they could always go down that route again because I hear Kevin Weeks is looking for a job in front office.
Go. Yeah, it's there's some things that you can kind of expect, some things that you can kind of predict. I have no predictions for what the Islanders are going to do. they might go and they might hire a hotshot young exec. They might go and like get the old guy again in Ken Holland. Or they might decide to try and offer Sorokin the job. Because, that worked out great for them last time.
Do you know who they would hire if he was available? Is Kevin Adams.
Yeah.
They would absolutely hire Kevin Adams.
Don't give Sabres fans hope like that.
I think they should try and trade for Kevin Adams.
Somehow Buffalo would
should
still
try
get
and
fleeced
trade
because
for him.
Kevin Adams has to deal himself.
All right, folks, we're going to draw this part of the conversation in because we want to get to Seattle. So Seattle announced a series of moves that they were firing coach Dan Bilesma after 1 year. And I would call it a underwhelming year for the Seattle Kraken.
The team was really bad this
They
year.
are kicking Ron Francis upstairs to president of hockey operations and promoting assistant general manager Jason Botterill to the position of general manager. So I guess we'll start with SJ on their thoughts.
I was very surprised. There was really no hint of this. I feel like exit interviews were all very positive on Bilesma as well. And I really didn't expect that, this front office. And as much as they're branding this the new wave of leadership, literally on large posters at the press conference, this is the same wave of leadership. Like, we've just moved the leadership one chair. I did not expect from this front office only giving a coach 1 year. I didn't think that Ron Francis was capable of making a decision that quickly. So yeah, I think this took everybody in Seattle by surprise. I don't know what I thought of Bilesma at the end of the day, aside from the team should have been better than they were. Based on what their performance was last year and the roster improvements, although not major, the roster did improve over the summer. They should have been able to do better. They instead did, I guess, slightly worse, which, that's not great. That didn't make me feel good. They were pretty unwatchable this year. So I think it's so interesting. I'm hopeful, I guess, that Botterill will be a better GM than Ron was. There were a lot of things that Ron Francis did that I thought were quite good. I thought when he made trades, and he did not make a lot, he generally did fine in those trades. Like, the returns he got for players were pretty good. He didn't waste a lot of assets. He didn't make a lot of bold moves. He was generally a fairly inactive kind of GM, but when he acted, it was fine. I thought he's been drafting fine. Like, the drafting has been fine as well. It was just like, I think the major problems were around some of his free agency signings and his just general inactivity as a GM. So I'm hoping that Botterill will be an improvement on that, and that we will see material change in the roster, as well as progress from our prospect pool. But I don't think, as much as Lewicki and Holloway and Francis are talking about this being a playoff team next year, or like making real strides, I don't think this is an overnight fix, even if they hire the best coach in the world. The team has real roster deficiencies. We lack high-end talent, and that's not something that you fix overnight.
I agree. Any other thoughts on the Bilesma firing / Francis quote unquote promotion?
I guess the only other one that is interesting is that they did announce that they are retaining Jessica Campbell as an assistant coach. They are not retaining Bob Woods or Dave Lowry, the other two assistants. So whoever they hire to replace Bilesma will get at least 2 assistant slots to fill, but he is stuck with Jess, so I hope he really likes her. The market loves her in Seattle. She is beloved, even if it turns out she's completely incompetent at her job, and I don't think that at all. It would cause a real shitstorm to fire her, I think, after just 1 year, especially considering how new she is to coaching. So it does seem like Seattle is making a real effort to develop her in her coaching and and she has only ever worked for Bilesma as a coach. So having a new manager, a new boss, might help her along in her development in coaching as well. So
why do you think they fired Dan Bilesma? Like, what? Give me your, like, what do you think it was?
I think it's because the team was so bad.
Do you think the team?
No, like literally at the end of the day, I think it was because the results were bad.
Because it's so rare in the NHL for a coach to only get 1 season. It's so rare.
Yeah.
And usually when they do, it's because the players hate them.
Yeah. He wasn't hated by the players. I don't think Ron loved him either. And I think that, and it's very possible that Botterill just wanted it to make his own hire, that Botterill wasn't enamored of him. And they were like, well, Ron said, okay, well, I'll fire Bilesma so that you kind of have a clean slate and I get the blame for that.
Yeah, I kind of wonder in what order those 2 decisions were made. The Ron Francis moving upstairs decision or the firing Dan Bilesma decision. Because I suspect it's the promotion of Botterill came first, and they're kind of wondering what they want to do about that internally. And Botterill was like, I want to move on from Bilesma because I think that, or that's what and that's the decision that they went. And it just so happened, because of the way that information comes out, a firing will leak before a planned promotion will.
Yeah. I mean, they really, I think the firing was announced, the firing leaked about an hour before the promotion. So these things, they happened essentially simultaneously. And I'm sure that all of it was very much a, Holloway and Lewicki and Francis got in a room and were like, this is what we're going to do.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add on that. Just, I know, SJ, I think at the start of the season you were excited about the hire considering the job he had done with the Firebirds and in developing Seattle's young talent. So all I can really then gather from that is if Seattle did this bad to the point where they needed to fire him, again, I think this is something that isn't just a Bilesman issue. This is an upstairs issue because, if Bilesman was so good with the young talent, then what does that say about the rest of the roster that they assembled?
Yeah, I agree with Trevor there. You obviously know the Kraken better than the rest of us, but to me, it certainly feels like you probably gave Hextall a bit too much credit when it comes to the job that he's done, because I do not think he's done a particularly good job in most aspects of it.
Did you just say Hextall? Did you mean Francis?
Yes.
They're
Okay.
both Rons. Close enough.
I
just
so
think
what
that's
I
that's
did.
Pittsburgh Penguins PTSD right there.
No, what I did was I remembered Hackstall. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You remembered
I was like-
Hackstall and you remembered a Ron, and that's all you needed.
yes. I was like,
um,
oh yeah.
The big problem this year was that the defense stank. The defense stank all year long, and they never fixed it. It was they could not like the goaltending was fine except when Joey Decord was in net. The goaltending was fine, but they still gave up way too many goals because the defense stank all year long. They really had the opposite problem as the one they did with Hextall.
Yep.
well, let's talk about who's going to get to fix that. So I did a little bit of I don't want to say a deep dive, but like a medium dive into the new general manager. So let's talk about Jason Botterill. Jason Botterill, best known as the brother of Jennifer Botterill, was born in Edmonton, Alberta in 1976 and was drafted 20th overall by the Dallas Stars in 1994. Does that make him the first ever draft pick of the Dallas Stars? I think it might. Let me check. Star. Nope, second draft of the Stars. Okay. He ended up appearing in 88 NHL games, scoring 5 goals, 9 assists for 14 points, but he had 89 penalty minutes. That tells you something about the 1994 NHL draft, I think. He went to University of Michigan and received an MBA. So this is not someone who is not, he went and got educated. He did exit hockey after several concussions and joined the Penguins in 2007, where he eventually worked his way up to associate general manager under Jim Rutherford. He was not, did not finish promoting there. He joined the Buffalo Sabres in 2017, May 11th, 2017, and then was fired 3 years later on June 16th, 2020. So what I wanted to do is run you through kind of the highlights of his career as the Buffalo Sabres GM. Obviously, he did not get the Sabres into the playoffs, but I think I'll leave it up to you to judge. So we'll start with signings. During his time, he did not sign many notable free agents. He signed a few depth guys for 1 to 2 year terms, generally around $1.3 to $1.5 million. The only notable signings he had were extensions. He extended Jeff Skinner, obviously gave him the 8-year deal that was later bought out. And he gave Jack Eichel the $10 million 8-year deal that he's still on with the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Those are the only deals he signed.
One good deal, one bad.
Those are the only deals he signed that were not entry-level deals that were over 2 years.
Now that says something, doesn't it?
I mean, that screams internal cap, right?
Yep.
Just a wee bit.
Yeah.
He lost his job before the free agency around COVID. So there should have been no reason for there to be that level of restriction. So let's talk about those trades. I'm not going to go through the entire trade history. We're talking, middle of the draft, tinkering, acquired a third pairing D for a low pick. Here's the first trade I want to talk about. The Wild trade with them to acquire Tyler Ennis, Marcus Foligno, 2018 third. The Sabres acquire Marco Scandella, Jason Pominville, and a 2018 fourth. What do you think about that trade?
Well, Marcus Foligno is still a productive player in the league, and I have never heard of those other guys.
Marco Scandella was eventually flipped for a fourth, to let you know. Jason Pominville was a long time Sabre who had left the team. This screams like someone said, get Pominville back. People like Pominville. If we bring back Pominville, we'll sell 500 extra tickets.
How much longer did Pominville?
Would have been better off keeping Marcus Foligno.
How much longer did Pominville last in the league?
I believe he retires. This is at June 30th, 2017. Jason Pominville. He played 2 seasons with the Sabres, scoring a combined 65 points.
Better than expected, longer than expected, not gonna lie.
But still, like
Yeah.
that still screams like bring a popular guy back.
Yeah.
He traded Evander Kane to the San Jose Sharks for a conditional first, a guy who never really played, and a fourth.
Honestly, not a bad
I
trade.
mean,
the Evander Kane factor of it is anytime you can get rid of Evander Kane, you're probably going to end up with a happier locker room afterwards.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Like, was Kane productive? Probably, but knowing a lot of the
Yeah, that-
off-ice shenanigans that have happened in his life, especially not to mention to get a conditional first out of that, yeah, I do that trade every time.
So Buffalo,
yeah, real mixed results on that one, I think.
Buffalo used that pick for reference to acquire Brandon Montour.
Oh, good player.
Great pick
Hey,
great pick for
actually,
anyone except Buffalo.
That'd be a win if Montour was still with Buffalo.
July 1st, 2018, the St. Louis Blues acquire Ryan O'Reilly for Vladimir Sobotka, Patrick Berglund, Tage Thompson, 2019 first or 2021 second.
That is a trade that
Didn't Ryan O'Reilly one out?
Extremely badly.
that was a trade that looked that was a trade that looked extremely bad to start because I think Berglund didn't even play in Buffalo. Like I think he bailed immediately to go to Sweden.
No,
afterwards.
Berglund played a few games and then quit. He's the guy who quit partway through the year. Like he retired rather than continue to play for the for them.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for
who was the coach then?
Donnie Meatballs?
No, I don't know if it was Granada. Was that Housley?
Oh, it might be.
But if Tage doesn't turn into Tage, that is one of the biggest flops of a trade. Tage is the only saving grace in that deal right now, and that's purely because of the last 3 seasons.
Oh, that's Ralph Kruger.
Wow, that was 3 coaches ago.
Holy smokes!
Talk about disaster coaches.
Yeah, there you go. Ryan Johnson is currently with the Amerks. So that's the pick in 2019. The 2021 second I am looking for right now. Buffalo. Let's see. Okay. It was sent to Vegas and then to Los Angeles and then to Ottawa, where they turned it into a guy who will never play in the NHL because 2021 is the year that Pierre McGuire did their draft.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Fuck. Let's see if I can find out who they got for it. Buffalo got Colin Miller for it in exchange for a 5th-round pick in this pick. So, yeah, sure, whatever. They traded a 2019 second, 2020 third, 2026, and a guy named Cliff Poo for Jeff Skinner. There was the previously announced Brandon Montour acquisition, which I think was probably a pretty smart acquisition. We talked about Colin Miller already.
Did he trade away Reinhardt?
No, he signed Reinhardt to a 2-year deal.
He bridged him.
And
he might not have been allowed to extend him for
and
longer.
Basically that's it. So there are a few trades. He traded Evan Rodriguez and Connor Sheary to the Penguins for Dominic Cahoon, which feels like a bad evaluation.
That trade was really funny because they all just went back to the Penguins.
Yeah. He traded Nathan Beaulieu to the Jets for a 6th after acquiring him for a 3rd. But ultimately, I think his selling, he did a good job acquiring talent. I think picking Tage was really good. So I think for drafting, he's like a B. Or for trading, I think he's a B.
Mm-hmm.
And for signings, I would give him an incomplete because it's extremely clear the owner would not allow him to sign players.
What did you think of his draft record?
Well, that's where we're going now. So he took over in 2017. He had a month to prepare. His first pick was Casey Middlestad at 8th overall in 2017. And
Ooh.
that feels rough when you consider that the centers that followed him were Michael Rasmussen, who, okay, whatever, but then Gabriel Velarde and Martin Necas and Nick Suzuki.
Ooh.
So, okay, that's not great, obviously. We would like to have seen better. They picked Mark Davidson in the second round as a right winger. The next right winger to go in that draft was Jason Robertson. 54th, they picked Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. So that turns out okay.
He's good.
Their third round is nobody. Their fourth round is nobody before nobody. They did not pick in the 5th. They did not pick in the 6th. And there's nobody. There were a couple picks about Victor Berglund in the 2nd. No, that's a different guy. No, never mind. Yeah. So 2017, I think they did okay, but not great. But he was only in charge of that team for a month and a half.
Robert Thomas went 20th in this draft.
Yeah, they could have Bobby Tommy.
They could have had Bobby Tommy.
Rasmus Dahlin in 2018, I think, is probably still the consensus number one, maybe Quinn Hughes. But when you consider where people were ranked at the time, it makes sense. They picked Matthias Samuelsson at 32, a guy who still plays for them, very good player. And there's no real defenders who are of value at this point. Like the next defender who went was a guy named Jared McIsaac. He's in the Czech League. Alexander Romanov, who got traded once for a first, and that's the best thing he's ever done. They traded the third that year, turned it into Jack McBain. They missed on the round 4 pick, but there's nothing close. This is not a particularly deep draft. Missed in round 5. Missed in round 6, but in round 7. But once again, nothing there. And then in 2019, I would say this is interesting. They picked Dylan Cousins 7th. The next center was Trevor Zegras, and I would say Cousins was better, and they also got a better player in return for him. The next best center they had available was Alex Newhook, and then Peyton Krebs, who they got anyway. So feels like they did good in that draft at the top level. They didn't have a second that year. Third, they picked Eric Portillo, who did not end up playing for them. And then they miss. They have Lukas Rušek, who is a Merrick's player, probably never going to make it. So Botterill did okay with the top level picks, but he is pretty much, other than Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, whiffing after the first round.
Well, I don't really expect him to expect his draft record to be any worse than Francis's, considering he already has a complete organization and player evaluation system in place.
The other thing to note is that the Sabres are one of the teams that don't have an extensive front office, particularly in terms of that support spending on scouting and such. So it makes sense in terms of hitting on their pro scouting and first round pick type deals, but not necessarily having as good a grasp on the lower rounds. Therefore it being an open question how Botterill might do in an organization that actually spends that money.
Yeah, agreed. Any other thoughts on Jason Botterill?
I hope he does great. I'm really cheering for him.
Second time's always the charm when it comes to GMs.
There you go, Jason Botterill. A personal good luck from SJ. They even managed to stop coughing for a few moments to wish it to you, so you should feel extra honored. So, folks, we were going to talk about the Women's Worlds and the return to play of the PWHL, but this podcast episode is already at an hour and 16 minutes on the raw data. It'll probably be a little bit shorter when you hear this. John will kill us if we talk for another 15 minutes. So I'm just going to say congratulations to Team USA and Team Finland on winning gold and bronze. Canada obviously played very well in that final game, but it just didn't work out. We'll come back and talk a little bit about what the the Women's Worlds means for the PWHL and what the PWHL means for the Women's Worlds perhaps next week. But yeah, congratulations to Team USA on a heck of a tournament. They really went out and they won this one pretty firmly. So, any final closing thoughts from anybody?
Hopefully by next episode we'll have PWHL expansion news as well, because as of recording tomorrow there should be a press conference in Vancouver that is, by all reports, announcing that.
That's right. SJ, any thoughts? Cool. What about you, Alex?
I would like to personally thank Elliot Friedman for continuing to do my absolute favorite thing that he does, his abbreviations bit. It's wonderful.
Oh my God.
I hope he never stops. Yeah, it's great. Thank you, Elliot.
Yes, Elliot Friedman's unbearable team abbreviations. And on that note, folks, we're going to wrap this one up. It has been, and you are listening to The Neutral Zone Hotel, which is written, hosted, and produced by us, the Neutral Zone Hotel crew. You can hit us up at neutralzonehotel.com, that website /Discord to join our Discord, Instagram, Blue Sky, and YouTube at Neutral Zone Hotel. Thumbs up on YouTube. Hit the like button. 5 stars, whatever it is you need to do to say how cool we are. And thanks always to Emily Mowbray for designing our logo. And you know what? Thanks so much for listening. Thanks to you, the fan. We'll hopefully talk to you very soon, and we'll definitely be in your ears next week. Take care.